Well, thank you for joining me on this Sunday evening, Josh of Severe Weather. I'm a meteorologist in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I appreciate you joining me here. We're going to take a pretty good look here at what's to come later in the upcoming week and next weekend. There's a potential for a very significant storm. In fact, one that could find a way to break a pressure record. That's not a good thing, by the way. And I'm going to talk a lot about that here in this video. Before we get to that, I do want to talk about what's going on across the southern and eastern United States here, as we do have a storm tracking through that area. We also have some systems to watch in the Indian Ocean that are producing some more tropical trouble in the southern hemisphere. It's been a very active couple of months down there. I do want to talk about that first before we get on to what's coming in the upcoming week. So I appreciate you joining me here. If you have not yet become a subscriber, I encourage you to do so. I'm going to try to be on here a lot more frequently in the coming weeks as we get into a busier season here of severe weather. It's been very busy for me, but I'm sure you all can relate. So we are going to start first here with the tropics. And you can see in the Indian Ocean a couple of storms. Ivone, not a threat to land. But we do unfortunately have a storm getting ready to make landfall here in Mozambique. Hey, Jude, this is you. And you are heading westward into Mozambique with 90-mile-per-hour winds. And the pressure on this system has dropped quickly, and it's intensified to a 975 millibar cyclone, which is almost category 2 in the Atlantic basin. So pretty intense system here. And unfortunately, it's not going to die quickly. In fact, it has a likelihood of tracking back out over water, crossing the Mozambique Channel, and then taking aim at a second landfall in Madagascar, which would produce a lot of flooding along the path of this system. Madagascar especially, but Mozambique, Malawi, and all these areas are at risk of seeing significant amounts of heavy rain, not to mention the threat for wind damage here in the coming hours this evening in parts of Mozambique. So be praying for those folks out there. Certainly not a good situation for them. We are going to now talk about what's going on, though, across the United States. And you can see storm systems spinning across Louisiana. Moisture spreads east, coming out of the Gulf of America. It's not a particularly severe system, but there are some storms that potentially could get strong and maybe severe here tonight over southern Georgia, northern Florida, but not a major outbreak of severe weather expected. That storm's going to take its time moving away. Probably won't be out of our hair until Tuesday. And then things should warm up across much of the southern United States before our next system takes aim here later in the week. Temperatures across the country, a little chilly in the Northeast, but not too bad across the mid-Atlantic states. Toasty across Florida. We're in the 70s and 80s this afternoon, 87 in Miami. And then you can see where it's raining and temperatures are held down into the 40s and low 50s across the I-20 corridor, basically from DFW on eastward to the Atlanta area. Not a pleasant afternoon here on Sunday. And tomorrow, unfortunately, doesn't look a whole lot better in portions of the southeast either. Here's a look at our current hazards from the National Weather Service. Flood watch in effect for northern Florida and southern portions of Georgia. Winter weather advisories and warnings on the West Coast. I'll show you those here real quick. Winter storm watch across the Sierra Nevada and the northern mountains here of California and some of the higher elevations in southwestern Nevada. And we do have a winter weather advisory over the Cascades around Stampede Pass. Going back to that screen before here, I do want to show you we do have some wind challenges to deal with. Again, this time of the year is typically pretty windy. We haven't had a lot of rain lately, so we do have a red flag warning for the Dakotas, eastern Montana, Wyoming, and all the way down into the Kansas City area. And unfortunately, the fire danger this upcoming week could be pretty substantial once again. Last week, we had to deal with it in southwest Texas, southern New Mexico. We had to deal with it earlier on in the Carolinas around Myrtle Beach. And yesterday, a nasty fire broke out on eastern Long Island near West Hampton. And this is the time of year that commonly will happen as our storms track across the country pretty quickly. You can see on our upper air chart here, a very active pattern setting up bowling ball after bowling ball here. And that's not a good thing, by the way. That means where you see the bright colors here on the warm side and the bright colors on the cold side, these two are going to clash pretty significantly. It's going to be a battle after battle here of storm systems. And the first one on Friday is going to be pretty significant, but there'll be more behind that as we get into next week. You can see, again, the pattern stays very active here around the Great Lakes down into the deep south. And that pattern recycles itself, and we go back into seeing more significant storms here the week of the 24th. So real quick, we do have a threat for some tornadoes across northern Florida through the night tonight, especially overnight around Palm Coast down to about the Tampa Bay area, as we do have this marginal risk in place. And there on the northern side of that, we could see a little bit of hail as well in southeastern Alabama and southern Georgia. and strong winds as well. This area here is under the gun here. Tomorrow, I don't think we're talking much severe weather. The system is going to start to weaken some as it heads to the east. And I am going to show you the timing from the NAM model here. This is from Tropical Tidbits. You can see low pressure tracks along the Gulf Coast here tonight, then crosses northern Florida and southern Georgia tomorrow morning, and then moves up the southeast coast, but gets blocked. So instead of coming up the east coast and producing heavy rain and maybe inland snow, instead it's going to be a sou'easter or a southeaster that batters the Carolina coastline here with heavy rain and some gusty winds right through tomorrow night and maybe first thing on Tuesday morning. The worst of this rain is expected across Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia overnight tonight, first portion of tomorrow, across eastern Georgia and the Carolinas tomorrow afternoon, across eastern North Carolina late tomorrow and tomorrow night, and across central and south Florida. It looks like during the day tomorrow into the evening hours tomorrow night, and then it's out of here with some cool weather lasting into Tuesday morning. But high pressure is going to build back in here, providing us with some quieter weather and some warming of temperatures by the time we get to the middle of next week. Real quick, I'm going to show you what's going on here across the southeast. We'll start with the Carolinas here. Rain should start to move in by tomorrow morning, all the way up to about Charlotte and Fayetteville, maybe even Greenville. Heavier rain down towards the coast tomorrow morning, but it could get kind of wet around Raleigh and Charlotte here in the afternoon, and in the evening around Fayetteville and over to Clinton and Jacksonville and Wilmington. The Outer Banks could actually have their heaviest rain later tomorrow evening and overnight tomorrow night before the system lifts out of the area on Tuesday morning. Going to take you farther south here to Georgia and South Carolina, and you can see it's going to be pretty wet here. I don't think we're talking a lot of severe weather, but we do have to keep an eye on these cells as they track through southern Georgia here overnight and maybe even into the low country of South Carolina tomorrow morning. Places like Hilton Head Island and Beaufort and Jasper County all need to be on the lookout for potentially very heavy rain, frequent lightning, maybe a little bit of severe weather early in the day tomorrow. Then that moves out and it turns a lot cooler with just damp conditions continuing into the evening tomorrow night. Finally, I'm going to take you down to Florida here, and you will see rain and thunderstorms moving through the northern portion of the state tonight. Another wave comes in behind it. There could be some significant amounts of rain across this area, hence that flood watch. Tomorrow, though, the threat for severe weather is limited to early in the day near Tampa Bay. And then by the time the system crosses I-4, it should weaken some. We will lose some of that instability and we'll lose some of the wind shear that could produce some stronger storms. That doesn't mean it's going to be a quiet day tomorrow. I just don't think it's going to be super intense as these storms cross the area. In fact, they should lose some of their punch here by the time we get to tomorrow afternoon. But unfortunately, this storm is not the one we're really concerned with. It's the one that's going to follow here towards Friday and Saturday. So basically 5, 6, 7 days away. You can see here our climate forecast system is calling for what could be a substantial severe weather outbreak over parts of the Mississippi River Valley and parts of the South, and maybe even all the way up to the Great Lakes, Iowa, possibly Wisconsin here towards the end of this week. I'm going to show you what that looks like here. And if we look at the upper level pattern, you can see a pretty big trough moves on shore here on Thursday, and then winds pick up on the southern side of this. We have a negatively tilted trough here and some very fast winds in the jet stream here, 160 mile per hour type wind as this system tracks northeastward here. And this is, unfortunately, this time of the year, not what you want to see down here. We've seen situations like this before. So I'm going to show you Friday evening at 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. And you can see here, we have a jet streak here with about 145 knot wind. That's about 165 miles per hour moving through Texas, and a negatively tilted trough, one that goes from northwest to southeast here. This is going to send moisture very quickly up northward, and winds aloft are going to strengthen. And if you go back to the setup, if you remember the December 10th and 11th outbreak of 2021, which had a tornado that was on the ground for over 200 miles potentially, the upper level pattern is not that much different. There will be some subtle differences, but if you take a look here at what it looked like here a few years ago, and again, different time of the year, not exactly the same kind of setup. The low was a little weaker with that. But you can see the same belt that got the severe weather is looking at it again. So we need to be watching that closely here. Low pressure is going to develop over eastern Colorado here Thursday evening. You can see it strengthens pretty significantly later Thursday night. The mean of the pressure here is 977, but some of our ensembles are even stronger than that. As the system moves through Nebraska on Friday afternoon, it will continue to strengthen. There are a few ensembles that go as low as 965, even 961 millibars. Remember that cyclone I showed you in Mozambique had 975. This is stronger than that, and it's over the central part of the country. As we head into the evening hours, again, we could have a substantial system here that may be reaching its peak. And this system is going to track to the north and east into the upper Midwest. You can see that here. This is later Friday evening. This is later Friday night. And then as we head into Saturday morning, it heads up towards western Lake Superior. And at that point, it will start to lose some of its intensity, but probably not the wind and certainly not the cold air that follows it. Here's a look at the European operational. I'm not going to show you the GFS, although it's not too far away from the European, but I think the European's done a better job recently. The GFS is the American model. The European is the European. The American model is not done great. And if you get rid of meteorologists, I can't imagine it's going to get any better. That's just my personal opinion. But anyway, moving along from that, you can see here where the low pressure forms, we have a lot of lifting behind our system, producing some heavy mountain snows. We have strong winds. We're going to have strong westerlies here on the backside of this across West Texas. Probably going to see some fire conditions, I would think. And then storms will start to develop during the late afternoon hours on Friday around Arkansas and Oklahoma. And then very quickly, as this taps into the Gulf moisture here Friday evening around 7 or 8 o'clock, we see storms very quickly erupting here. Now, tough to say how this is going to play out with much detail. But I do think there is tornado potential as this moves out and we get into a spot where wind flow aloft picks up quite a bit. Definitely some strong wind potential and probably some hail as well. We may see two modes of this, with the northern mode producing hail and maybe some cold core wind and tornado type cells, but longer track systems down here across Arkansas, Missouri are the ones that we need to be maybe more mindful of. Not to ignore what's going on up in here. I just think the more intense storms are probably going to be farther south here across Dixie Alley. And as I take you eastward into the Ohio and Tennessee valleys, you can see this classic setup here where we're going to have a squall line, which could produce tornadoes with it. And my concern is if we do, in fact, have storms that erupt ahead of that squall line, we could see longer track tornadoes. That is certainly a possibility at this point, but not yet a guarantee. Again, remember, this is 5-6 days away, so it could still change some. But models have been in pretty decent agreement that something significant is going to happen in here. As we head into Saturday, you'll see the threat for severe weather is going to revamp itself here over Mississippi and Alabama in the afternoon on Saturday, Tennessee as well. We may have tornadoes down in here as well. It's going to be warm. It's going to be humid, more so than the last system, and something we need to be watching for here on Saturday afternoon and even into Saturday night. By the time we get to Sunday morning, and this moves eastward, we are going to see this system probably still producing strong winds with it, maybe some heavy rain, but I think we're going to lose the widespread tornado chance. I don't think it's a zero chance, but I don't think it's going to be a significant a chance by the time this moves east. And that's because our low pressure system is going to be advancing all the way up here into eastern Canada. In fact, all the way up into James Bay at 981. Oh, by the way, on the backside of this system, be preparing now for what could be another crippling blizzard for several hours here on Friday night and Saturday morning. We'll have to see exactly how that plays out, but Minnesota and the Dakotas certainly could be in that position to see some rough weather once again. So I do want to take you here real quick to the Storm Prediction Center forecast. And this is for Friday from 7 a.m. Central to 7 a.m. Saturday Central. A lot of this will be late Friday and Friday night, but you do see right now a pretty large area that has the risk for severe weather. And right now, in my professional opinion, I would be more concerned about this area seeing some stronger long-lived tornadoes somewhere in here. So I think we're going to get an upgrade coming to 30%, but I'm not completely confident yet how that's going to play out. You could see on the following day that risk for severe weather is fairly high Saturday and Saturday night. And again, we'll have to see how this plays out, but I would be concerned about this portion here as we get into Saturday afternoon, maybe for some more tornadoes. That's just going with my gut at this point. This certainly can change. Another thing I'm watching is the moisture return here. Take a look here at Friday afternoon. You can see convective available potential energy gets all the way up into the upper Midwest. It's high in parts of Arkansas, Tennessee. I mean, there's a lot of storm fuel in place for this. It starts to climb even back in Texas and Oklahoma in the afternoon. But as moisture climbs here with it, we're going to see this very quickly going downhill Friday evening. That threat for severe weather continues overnight Friday night across portions of the South, but the northern portion of this system is going to lose a lot of its storm fuel. It's not going to be a zero chance for severe weather, but it's a lot lower chance. But even if you look at Michigan and Ohio here, we need to be watching this here for Saturday morning and maybe even into Saturday afternoon before the system lifts out. By the time we get later into Saturday evening and overnight Saturday night, you'll see the threat for severe weather probably comes down some due to the fact that our cape is coming down and it's going to be late in the night. Here's a look at snow on the cold side of the system. And I don't think we're talking a crippling blizzard when it comes to snow totals, but I do think we're going to see a lot of wind on the backside of this. So even a few inches of snow could create a very nasty travel here for Friday night and Saturday in the upper Midwest and the northern plains. Certainly the Rockies are going to see that Thursday into early Friday as well. The other thing that I'm concerned about here is the potential for high winds, and you can see them here in the next couple of days across the upper Midwest. But take a look at Southwest Texas. Again, we haven't had much rain down here, and the European model is showing the potential to get 80, maybe 90-mile-per-hour winds just to the east of the mountains here on Friday afternoon, Friday evening. 60 to 70-mile-an-hour winds in North Texas and Oklahoma, 50 across Colorado. And later Friday night, you can see the high wind threat continues to climb, and it continues eastward here into Tennessee and Georgia and into western portions of North Carolina as well, and then up the East Coast as we get into Saturday night and Sunday. So yet another big windstorm, just like the one we had to deal with a few days ago. And unfortunately, I don't see that improving here as we get farther off into this forecast period here. Looking at moisture here, it's very dry, but we do start to see moisture returning from the Gulf of America by midweek as dew points get past the 50s and maybe into the 60s once again. As we head into Thursday, it's very dry in West Texas, but we do get this punch of moisture here. You can see where our dry line is going to be. In fact, I'm going to draw it on the screen for you here. So right in here, east of OKC, just west of DFW here, we go from dew points in the teens and 20s to dew points in the 60s here. So this is not uncommon for March. As we get into Friday night, though, look at how quickly and how far north this moisture climbs. We have dew points in the 50s in Minnesota, 60s in southern Illinois, and near 70 in parts of coastal Louisiana. And as we get into Saturday, it's very moist across Alabama, western Florida, and the Gulf region as well, and still fairly humid all the way up into eastern portions of Michigan Saturday afternoon. So even eastern Michigan, we need to be watching this. Saturday night, it's getting pretty moist all the way up into the Ottawa area, into upstate New York, into southern New England. Dew points will be well into the 60s in the Carolinas, even some 70s possible as we get into Florida here. So we definitely need to be watching that. Aside from that, we're going to see some crazy temperature swings as well. Take a look at the next couple of days. Chilly tomorrow over the southeast here, 40s and 50s for afternoon temperatures, but we're starting to warm back up in Texas into the 60s and low 70s. That'll be nice compared to what's coming here by Wednesday. Take a look at this. On Wednesday afternoon, we could see some record heat over the Rio Grande Valley of Texas, and the European model says it could be as high as 106 near the Mexican border. Here we are talking the 12th of March. So that's going to be extreme for sure. The warm air gets all the way up into Montana on Wednesday. Thursday, you'll see it's very warm, 70s into Dakotas, mid to upper 80s in parts of Texas and Louisiana. That's pretty gross, to be honest with you. Friday, very warm as well. And then you see the front coming through Friday night. So if you're in eastern South Dakota Friday afternoon, you're starting out in the 70s, and then you're waking up to temperatures dropping into the 20s with possible blizzard conditions on Saturday morning, single digits near the Canadian border here. So quite the front moving through the region here. I do want to show you what's going on in the eastern part of the country because it does warm up here slowly, not tomorrow so much as what it does on Tuesday, but take a look at this. We're talking about temperatures in the 60s, maybe even flirting with 70 degrees in DC on Tuesday, but that is not going to last. As we get into Wednesday and Thursday, we have a backdoor front dropping down. And look how cold it's going to be in northern New England on Wednesday morning. And unfortunately, our daytime temperatures may not get out of the 40s around New York and Philadelphia, 50s around DC and Virginia Beach. It will be not nice and mild, though, if you are spring breaking down here around Myrtle Beach or down on the Gulf Coast on Wednesday. Thursday's kind of cool as well. Friday's still a bit chilly, but starting to improve. And then Saturday, temperatures warm up substantially. And this is probably our warmest day in portions of the Northeast as we await our upcoming cold front. So that is a look at what's going on for this upcoming system. Looking ahead to the week after, the week of the 16th and on, it's not going to be as active, but we still have the potential for some severe weather in parts of the Southeast and the Mid-Atlantic and maybe even the Ohio River Valley. And then the following week, things could start to trend more active for that final full week of March near the Gulf region and near Florida and Texas, but certainly quieter across the plains and Midwest for this week as well. So we've got a lot of time for that to change. But at the very least, we need to be watching this system here Friday, Saturday, and early Sunday as it moves from the plains to the eastern portion of the country and up into eastern Canada as well. So I thank you all so much for your time today. I want to leave you with a word of encouragement. I'm a Christian. It's Sunday, it's the Lord's Day, and I rejoice in that as a Christian. Psalm 118:24. This is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. And later on in that verse, or in that scripture, Psalm 118:29 says, "Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, for his mercy endures forever." You probably didn't come here to hear that. You probably came here for a weather update, but I want to leave you and let you understand that we serve a mighty God, no matter what you personally believe. And we can't fight all of the battles that we run into in our lives with each other or by ourselves. We can't do it all. Uh, we have to turn to God. We have to repent, turn to God, ask him to forgive us, and ask him to provide for us because he is good and that he endures forever. We are not forever, but the Lord is forever. And those who choose to follow Jesus have the opportunity to one day live in heaven with him forever, eternally. And that is the good news that I wanted to encourage you with here this afternoon. So I'm going to leave you all, but I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the weekend, and I will talk to you all again soon. God bless you.